Good afternoon, everyone. Cheryl Elisa for Urban Akron. Today, I have a special guest, and before I introduce her, um, I want to say this: domestic violence is huge. It's something that a lot of people don't talk about, and there are millions of people that is going through domestic violence right now as we speak. And today's guest, her name is Valerie Sales. She's a domestic violence survivor. And today we're going to talk about her story, get her story from her, and she's also going to share some information for you to get help. I want to introduce Valerie. Hi, Valerie.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good, and yourself?
I'm good, thank you, Cheryl.
So let's start with this. Domestic violence is huge, like I was just saying. A lot of people don't talk about it. Why do you think they don't talk about it?
They don't talk about it because of the guilt, the shame, also the denial. A lot of women who go through domestic violence have four psychological factors that affect them, and that is the denial, the guilt. Then they get to a point where there's a acceptance, and then they start taking responsibility for it. But that takes years, depending on how long you've been caught up in that cycle.
Okay, so we're going to start from the beginning. I want you to tell the audience your story, and I'm going to hand you this.
All right. My story stems back to an early age. When you are brought up in a family and you see certain forms of domestic violence, um, it becomes embedded in your mindset, your emotional state, and you believe that this is what is normal. So it starts to become a generational curse where you fall into that same pattern, in your relationships. You mimic that behavior, if I can, put it that way. So as I continue to get into relationships, there was always some type of authoritarian type figure in my life. Um, when it gets to that point, Cheryl, you you get a learned helplessness. So when I refer to that term, you become dependent on that other person, mentally, physically. Almost you can't live without that person. So you become to accept the behavior that they dish out. If you know and they start to make you feel guilty for certain behaviors. If you make a conscious decision about something and you know that it is right, then somebody comes behind you and tell you no, that's not right, and they make you feel guilty for it. Then you start questioning your own ability to think. Okay. For me, the last straw, getting back to several of the situations that happened to me, there was a relationship that I was in. The gentleman, he was very intelligent. He was nice looking. He had a good job. But he was so insecure that no one was allowed to speak to me, no matter where we went. I couldn't feel free to be who I am. Um, and it got so severe that one morning I woke up. This man was in my face, literally in my face, and told me, literally, he said, "I'm getting ready to kill you." This man beat me so bad, he tore up my whole house. This went on for 8 hours, literally 8 hours all day in my house, to the point where he had kicked the skin off of me. My face was he broke my jaw. Okay, my face somewhat had to be rebuilt on one side. And then when I go to the police to get help about it, they said, "Well, ma'am, you don't have no witnesses." Okay, did it stop there? No, because he continued to stalk me to the point where I had to go out and buy a firearm. Okay. Um, but then, Cheryl, I was so scared because when you are scared and you have a firearm, you don't think logically. You just pull it out of fear. Okay, you cannot do that. So then the next step was for me to become a hostage in my own house. I quit my job. I quit going to school. I quit doing everything. Until one day, I reached a point where I was fed up. And called a friend of mine and I said I would like to go out. So we go out. We comb the whole perimeter of where this place is at. We don't see his car. You know, we feel like it's safe to go in. I wasn't in there 5 minutes when he came in the door with a 38 with it cocked, telling me I was going with him or else he was going to blow my brains out. So you reach a point where I can no longer continue to live with this. You know, if tonight's my night to die, then tonight's the night, okay? Um, by the grace of God, somebody called the police, okay? There were certain people sitting at the table with me who deterred, you know, his actions until, you know, the police could get there. And then the police told me, after I asked them, could you please follow me, escort me home? They said, ma'am, when we get to that corner right there, you're out of our jurisdiction. You are on your own. Okay? So from that point on, I had to take certain steps. You know, went down, filed a restraining order. You went through a lot of steps. Okay? And then it stopped. Okay? But due to all of those episodes of violence, it does something to your emotional, your mental, your trust issues. Are you willing to even trust yourself to get into a relationship? Because it always starts out in a honeymoon phase. Oh yes, you know, I love you. Oh yes, you know, I'm gonna do this for you. Oh yes, everything is just peachy keen. Until that relationship starts to build, and then it's almost like a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. You know, women need to realize that when you meet an individual, if they liked you and say that they love you and they want to be your companion, then if you love me then, why once you get with me and we establish that we are going to have this you know, committed relationship, why do you now want to change me? When someone gets to the point where they want to change you, that's a red flag. You know, people have to realize that when they get into a relationship, you have to accept me for who I am. Okay? You shouldn't have to change who you are to be in a relationship.
Let me ask you this question. Let me ask you real quick. And I do want to say this real quick. Domestic violence, it happens to men as well. And a lot of people, yeah, and you know, a lot of people they don't think that. They always think that it is just women. But what I want to ask you is, what do you think, just your opinion, where these insecurities come from? Because it's crazy how a lot of it is upbringing, but it has to be more to it. What do you think?
In terms of what? The women or the men?
Both.
Um, Insecurities come from one, not being able to fulfill your goals. When you set certain goals and you take certain baby steps to accomplish them, I don't care what type of barriers you have to face, okay? You learn, and it instills a certain amount of confidence in you when you can accomplish the things that you set out to do. Not only that, you have to have people in your support system that are going to encourage you to do that. Now, whether you're, you know, minority or whatever, you know, people have different strains in their life, whether they're financial, emotional, abuse. You know, these are strains that you have to overcome. You need to be able to reach out to different support systems in order to get that support that you need. So when an individual realizes they have these insecurities, which once again comes from, as you say, their background or their upbringing, well, that's where it all starts. That is seriously where it all starts. It starts within the home. You have to have a good foundation to build on in order to move forward. Okay? And if you don't have that, you'll fall for anything. Seriously.
I believe that. With that being said, we're going to get deeper into Valerie's story. We're going to take a commercial break. This is Cheryl from Urban Akron, and we'll be right back. Okay, and we're back, Cheryl Lisa for Urban Akron, sitting here with domestic violence, survivor Valerie Sales, and I want to get into this question. You were talking about in the last segment about the honeymoon phase. Was it something that clicked in your mind to let you know that did he do something that just let you know, okay, something isn't right?
Well, there were times, as I had stated earlier, I was a member of a social club. I knew everybody in that social club. I played softball with that social club. I, I was an active member. Well, when this person came on the scene, I could walk up into our clubhouse, and if I was with him, nobody would speak to me. Okay? Now, did I ask myself, what's wrong here? Sure, I did. The writing was on the wall. That was a sign right there, but I ignored it. I ignored it. And here's what really hurt me, Cheryl, in the end, was everybody knew this person. They knew this person's history, okay? And nobody told me, okay? No one said a word, okay? Until after this man had beat me halfway to death. And God forbid, when he came in to our clubhouse, because that's where I went that night, okay, to be around my quote unquote friends, okay, and I'm sitting there at the table, and here this man comes into this social club with a 38 cocked and puts it up to my head and says, "You going with me, or else I'm gonna kill you." Okay, wow. So and I have to encourage people, when you see domestic violence and you know a person's history, ask yourself, would you want somebody doing that to your mother? Would you want somebody doing that to your daughter? Would you want somebody doing that to your sister or your niece? Okay? Women have to realize their worth. You are not here to be a punching bag. You're not here. I like to refer to it as a floor mat. Okay, you just not gonna just keep walking all over me. That's right. Okay, and then people have a tendency to develop what is now recognized as a form of post-traumatic stress disorder, and that's the battered woman syndrome. Okay, I want to make reference back to a friend of mine that due to a domestic violence incident, I was incarcerated, and just so happened she came in on a murder rap.
Really?
Okay, so this woman, on her first, upon first seeing her, okay, this woman had been beat so bad for so many years. She just automatically looked like she had black eyes all the time, okay? And people need to realize that after your blood vessels get broken so many times in your face, okay, they don't heal back. So you are automatically scarred up, and you have that punching bag type look, in your face. Well, this young lady, it was on New Year's Eve, okay? The gentleman that she had been with for so many years. This man, if it was snowing outside, he would count the footprints in the snow. She would be walking downtown. They would be together. If somebody spoke to her, he would slap her down in the middle of the street. So I'm making reference to certain instances that happened because over the years, she had numerous witnesses to the acts of domestic violence towards her. So on that particular night when he came in, um, that first cycle started where the abuser does something to create tension in the relationship. Okay, then it erupted. He went to do something to her, and the fight and flight type episode, that you reach, especially in post-traumatic stress disorder. She went in the kitchen and she got a knife, and she ended up stabbing him to death. Today she's a free woman. She never did a day. Okay.
Now, is that the reason? Because from what I understand is, you can, when this kind of stuff happened to you, and you continue to make reports. And I want you to answer this for me because I don't know. I'm just from what I heard. You continue to make reports over and over again. Police reports. So when it comes down to something of that nature, that violent, you are able to walk away. Is that true?
I can't say for sure, but you have a better chance of walking away. You should always, any domestic violence, any individual who encounters domestic violence on a regular basis, you need to document what is going on in your house. Okay, um, but domestic violence individuals, they are very good at I want to say perpetrating or giving the image that everything is okay in their house. But meanwhile, back at the ranch, when the door is closed, all hell is breaking loose. Okay, and that includes not just the wife, but the kids too. Okay, um, and so to lead into another area, here lately there has been a lot of reports of these women allowing their men that they are in a relationship with, to abuse their kids. Okay, whether it's physically, sexually, or they're into sex trafficking. How are you going?
How do you come back from something like that? And then not only that, it's a mental scar, and it has to be, for your children to see it, for like you said, your mom, just things of that nature. It is actually a mental scar that's left. Like, it's something that you cannot forget. I'm more than sure. Now, well, I want to go back to this real quick. What was one of the signs that clicked about your husband to make you think, okay, something is not right? Like, give me like the very first sign, if you can remember.
Okay. First, let me say this: he wasn't my husband.
I'm sorry. Correction.
Um, I've only been married once, and I didn't get married until I was 49 years old. So all this happened prior to me even getting married. But did I marry an abuser? Yes, I did. Okay. So the cycle hadn't stopped yet. All right. And I am 56 years old now. Okay. So that's a long history. But anyway, one of the first signs was I was sitting in the living room in my house, okay, and I said something to him, and he just turned around and slapped the taste out of my mouth, and it was like,
And that was the very first time?
yeah, and it was like, for what reason? But let me say this, to be on the honest side, and to be truthful about this, a lot of women in domestic violence, when a man does something and then he comes back with an elaborate gift, or, oh honey, I'll do this for you, or, oh honey, I'm gonna put this money in your pocket, or, oh honey, yeah, you sort of let it slide up under, the rate. But that is a sign that it's building to something else, because if somebody will slap you that hard for no you really, you need to be asking yourself, well, if you do that, what else will you do?
And that's what I was going to ask you. What can you tell our audience? Just give them just a few. And your story is great, and I know it is a lot to your story, and I hope that we can revisit it again in the future. But right now, I want you to tell the audience, like, give them just a couple of signs that you think, okay, something's going on here, and I need to be aware or try to put a stop to it. What is a couple of the signs that you think that the person is violently? Yeah.
Um, First and foremost, when a person gets to the point where they need to keep track of your every move, that's a for sure sign. Okay. Um, I had an individual. I mean, we had 3 cars sitting in the driveway, and if I was gone 5 minutes past when he said I was supposed to be in the house, he would call the police and say I stole the car. Okay. Um, So that's a sure sign. And I mean, it could be something as simple as making breakfast in the morning. You know what I'm saying? Where they are dictating to you your every move and how you are supposed to conduct yourself in certain activities or going to the grocery store, whatever, the case may be. When an individual gets to the point where they keep you financially strapped, okay? When you have to go to that person and say, well, I need X amount of dollars for this. Okay. So therefore they got their foot on you because you can't make a move without them. Okay. Because we all know you need money. One of the third things that you need to adhere to or notice is that they will keep you away from your friends and your family. They will start isolating you. Okay. Um, those are the 3 big ones, okay? And when that starts to happen, or your man says, "Well, Cheryl, I don't think it's good for you to be going out with your single friends. Okay, my friends are single. They were single when I met you, okay, and whether we're in a committed relationship or we have still gotten, say, it escalated into a marriage, a committed relationship, how you gonna tell me I can't go see my single friends?
Right. Then at the end of the day, it's like you're your own individual. I mean, you have your marriage, you have your family, but you're your own individual at the end of the day.
It don't work like that when you're in an abusive relationship because it's about power and control. Okay.